This is my figure drawings from about 3 weeks ago. They're stiff, blocky, and robotic. And this is what I can draw now. Well, what changed? I followed a structured beginner process that finally made sense. And it is literally something that any beginner can follow. I'm only about 18 months into my drawing journey, but for the longest time, I have struggled to make any progress whatsoever drawing figures. But considering where they were and how long I've been working at them, the progress is real. So today I want to give you the exact process, the exact steps, so that you can make some progress too. Like most beginners, I was trying to draw the figure without really understanding the structure that was underneath. But I realized something. In my classroom, I've been teaching for 10 years, I would never ask a 12-year-old refugee student just fresh in the country who doesn't speak English to read a novel that is targeted at his age. That would lead to failure, frustration, and we won't even get to burnout because this kid would have quit school by now. Instead, you have to strip it right back to letters and sounds. And despite knowing this, with all the experience that I had, I was doing the complete opposite in my drawings. I was trying to draw the final image without knowing any of the basics. I was trying to read a novel in a language I didn't even understand. So this is the mindset shift. You need to sometimes take 10 steps back to take 20 steps forward. Because the problem is, when you don't understand what's going wrong, it is almost impossible to fix it. But what are these basics that you actually have to learn? Progress for me started when I stripped everything back to boxes. It's like learning the sounds for every individual letter. If you can't draw a simple box in space, in perspective, then you have no hope of drawing the figure. If you can't do it, it's boring, but that's where you start. Now, this isn't to say that I am the master of drawing boxes, because mine still sucks sometimes. Sometimes it feels like I've forgotten how to draw a simple box. But the point isn't to make these boxes beautiful, it's to be able to see where the errors are going wrong. I can see when they've gone wrong and I can fix the errors now. And that really is how you know when you're ready to move on. It's not when it looks perfect, but when you can identify mistakes and fix them. So you draw a million boxes, but don't be afraid to move on to constructing mannequins even before you think you're ready. But just because you do move on to these box mannequins, it doesn't mean you should throw away drawing boxes. Keep stacking them and queuing them borderline every single day, even as a 5-minute warm-up to keep that fresh in your mind. But now move into those box mannequins. But here's a tip for you. Don't use a real human reference. Find a model of what it is you are actually trying to create. You are not trying to create a human figure yet. You are trying to create a mannequin, so find one that you like. What is your goal? What are you trying to achieve? Because that's how I got lost, by not doing this first. So I needed to find the mannequin that I was trying to build. And I started in 2D, just the simple shapes, no perspective, a front view to learn the proportions. And you can use rectangles for everything: head, torso, pelvis, and all the limbs. Don't worry about proportions too much. Forget the 7.5 heads, the 8 head bullshit. We're not ready for that yet. Just keep it really simple. 50% legs, 50% from the pelvis to the head. Keep it really simple, and you will notice when it just doesn't look right, and you can start to tweak it. And then I started to turn them into those forms and those boxes that I've been practicing. And I drew heaps of them, reps. But then you start to rotate them in space, drawing them from different angles and different perspectives. But honestly, mostly in a 3/4 view. Can you draw this thing accurately every single time? Once you can do that, then you can start dabbling into looking at references and creating different mannequins from poses. But here's a warning. Do not pick the wrong poses. This slowed me down for days. I wasted so much time trying to draw these really complex poses, when really, at the beginning, keep them simple but dynamic. Don't be afraid to redraw the same reference 3 or 4 times if it doesn't quite look right. But the key thing that I want you to remember is just use the reference as inspiration. You're not trying to get it absolutely perfect and match the picture. Just use it as inspiration and try to get it as close as you can. Not once in the history of art has someone said, "Cool drawing, can I see your references?" Eventually you get to a point where you feel like you're almost there. And I'm telling you now, I felt the same. I still didn't think I was ready to move on yet. But I eventually did move on to these egg-based torsos. And I'm gonna be very honest with you, I was not ready. And I still don't feel ready, but you have to get to the point of moving on. Otherwise, you will continue to do the same thing over and over again until it looks right. But the truth is that it probably never will. So move on anyway, because you can always go backwards if you need to. And you're gonna see, these first few drawings, and as I was exploring this concept, they sucked. It felt like I was getting worse. But the difference is that my understanding was growing. And like I said, once you understand what you're doing, this is where you can start to correct your errors. So here are the new steps. You're gonna replace the chest with an egg. Think of it like cutting a cylinder out of the base of the egg, and that's gonna create that rib cage cavity. And you're gonna start here, and you're just gonna keep it here, and draw this egg until you're bored senseless. Start simple, draw the egg, add a center line, and cut out the cavity about 1/3 from the bottom, and draw it again, and again, and again. Find a reference of a rib cage and trace it if you need to before moving off and drawing it for yourself. But before, when I said replace the box with an egg, don't actually do that. Use that box to create the egg. Anytime the perspective feels off, put it in a box. And if any of this is helping you out, like, subscribe, comment, do your thing. Once that starts to click, you add a cylinder through the top of the egg, a cylinder underneath for the abdomen, and then a box for the pelvis. Once you've got this form constructed, you can start to overlay the chest that follows the form of the cylinder and the egg to start to create that chest. This is the part that's probably going to get confusing. If you don't have a solid understanding of contours and how different shapes wrap around form, this is the exercise for you. Draw different forms, different shapes, cylinders, eggs, just random blobs, and you're going to pretend that you're dropping a piece of cloth over the top of them, and I want you to imagine how that cloth would wrap around the contours of the shapes, and it's really going to get you to help build a sense of form. Then you're simply going to take all of these parts and you're going to start to join them together. Stay loose, stay gestural, stay really light. Put the cylinder on top, cut the cavity, and then overlay that chest piece over the top of both of those forms. Knock it back with an eraser and then go over it again with much cleaner lines. This form of that shoulder, chest, pelvis, and abdomen, I didn't just draw it once, I drew it over and over and over again. It really is one simple concept, but I spent a little over 3 weeks just doing this one thing. I drew it from different angles and different views with different perspectives, and I got a lot of them wrong. But then it just started to click. Once it did, I started to bring in real references. Again, nothing too crazy, but this time I was looking at them with structure in mind. I was trying to analyze how the reference matched these manipulated forms that I was constructing. I stopped trying to copy the figure at all, and instead I started to study how the mannequin shows up in these figures, and I saw so much progress. This is where I started, and here I am now. 3 weeks of focused, structured learning, and progress will happen. It is not perfect by any means. This is not a masterpiece, but this might be a reality for what progress actually looks like as a complete beginner. And I'm proud of it. I can feel the progress. I have improved over the last 3 weeks after banging my head against the wall for 18 months. And you've probably heard it before, but this is the biggest lesson that I've learned. Figure drawing has nothing to do with all these lumps and bumps. It is about constructing and understanding form. If you're learning how to draw these figures as well, or anything really, I hope this gives you some sort of clear path that you might be able to follow. Take baby steps, because you are never going to feel like you're ready to move on. But trust me, you probably are. So for me next, I've only worked on this torso. My next job over the next couple of weeks is to put the rest of the body together, throw those limbs on, and see if I can construct a full manipulated mannequinized figure that kind of looks decent instead of these stiff boxes and cylinders. It'll be slow, but that's the point. I'll keep you updated, and if you want to see my progress or if you want a tip or two, follow along.